Richard from Centenary Landscaping Supplies. What we're going to look at today is building a fence, timber fence. This is at the Centenary Landscaping Supplies yard where we're installing a new boundary fence. Obviously the first stage is to decide where the fence is going to go and to get our string line in place. So Andy, this is where you started?
Yeah, I put the string line up at eye level just because that's where your eyes always drawn to. So you're best off getting, because your posts aren't always 100% straight, so you're best off getting your top line right and then work down from there.
Right, now the holes. How far apart have we got these holes?
I've got these posts at 2300 centres, 2.3 metres. That just allows, the rails themselves are 4.8, so it just allows you to basically put the posts in wherever you, to make life easier. Put the posts in, then you can cut the rails to suit.
Alright, so we can see now as you pan down the length of the fence, and he's had his string line marked, then we've marked the holes out at 2.3 centres, and now we're putting the posts in. I think importantly, don't try and do this on your own. It really is a two-man job, is that right?
Yeah, there's nothing worse than trying to hold a post straight and then trying to get concrete in the hole at the same time.
Right. So you can see Andy's got some help here with the concrete mix, and he's using his spirit level to get the post in a nice straight fashion. So these are now just touching the edge of the string line. Two important points to note is how deep do the holes have to be? Well, generally we look for 600mm depth, so 2 foot deep for the holes, and these are being dug with a nice 300mm auger. Another important point to note is that when the boys have put the concrete in the hole, it actually slopes away from the post. Then when the rain falls down the post, it doesn't cool at the base here and rot the timber out. So when you're putting the concrete there, put it slightly proud and sloping away from the post. That'll help the fence last as long as possible. A couple of other points to mention are the dimensions of the posts. Now we've used here 100 by 75mm posts for your main run of fencing. If you're coming to a corner or you've got a gate, you use the 100 by 100 posts, which gives you a little bit more strength. And if you're going to put a sleeper along the base, then fine to use the 600mm depth for a hole, but if you want to put 2 sleepers there as a little almost like garden bed or retaining wall, you need to then change to 100 by 100 posts and maybe take your hole down to 800 deep to give you a little bit more strength and rigidity in the ground. Right, once we've left the posts in the ground for a good 24 hours so that the concrete's nice and hard, next thing to do is to put a string line right across the top so we can cut the tops off these posts all nice and even at the right height. So let's get your string line up and cut all the posts off at the right height. Okay, the next part we're going to do is putting up the rails. Now there can be lots of variations here, but the fence we're building is going to have a sleeper at the bottom as a kickboard because we're going to put a garden bed here. And this time we've taken our top rail right to the top of the post. But Andy, what is the standard here from the top?
Well, the standard normally you bring it down about 50mm, so 5 centimetres. And then the next rail down you generally come about 500mm and then again at 1500. And that's going to work, so that works out pool safe from the other side. It's just the standard, even if there isn't a swimming pool on this side, I always build mine that way. That way, potentially, if anyone ever does want to pool in, they haven't got to worry about the side fence. If you're not bothered about making it pool safe, you can just basically break it up into 3 individual gaps. Just try and make sure that you never leave more than 150mm of paling sitting above your bottom rail, and the same with the bottom. That way your palings don't warp and twist as they dry out over time.
And I think an important thing to remember too is that the rails that you use are often 75mm by 38mm or 100 by 38. And given that they're 4.8 meters long, they can bend. So if you do find that they've got a bit of a bow in, when you're putting them Andy, you can just bend them into place.
That's correct.
And fix them with your 4-inch batten screw. Make sure you use your galvanized batten screws to do that job for you. Right, now we're at the stage that we're going to put the palings on the fence. And as you can see, Andy has started putting up the palings with a 50mm gap, because what we've decided to do on our fence is go for 100% privacy and have our second run of fence palings across there like that. Now, you don't have to do it that way. You could butt joint the palings, like so. You could leave just one paling vertically and then put the next one next to it, like so. Any arrangement that you wish. Just remember, if you do butt joint them, over the next 6 months, the timber will contract and you will see little gaps. So the only way to get 100% privacy is to put the palings overlap like that. And that will cost you a little bit more because it takes about 14 of them per lineal meter. Now, one other point I wanted to show you here is that you can get a variance in the color. And this just shows you where the copper, chrome and arsenic, the CCA treatment, is just on the outside of the pad. Another point to note is that putting these palings up, we've hired a nail gun. So Andy's got the nail gun here. Andy, do we need different length nails for the palings?
Yeah, that's right, Richard. Basically, with a single layer, you want to go with a 45mm nail. Make sure they are a ring shank nail when you're going pine to pine. If you're going pine to hardwood or hardwood to hardwood, you can get away with a straight shank. Basically, that ring shank just allows for the timber to shrink around the nail and make sure it bites on and it doesn't fall off over time. Obviously, with another layer going over the top, you want to make sure that your top paling goes the same depth through. So basically, I've used a 45mm nail on the first run through. On the second layer, I'll actually use a 55mm nail. That's going to get me right through the top paling, through the first layer, and then into the rail.
And what we'll see here is Andy has left at the top the palings poking above the top rail. Now, it's quite okay to have a fence with the palings pointing up, as we mentioned the other day, as long as it's not more than about 150mm. If it is, they tend to start to want to bow and bend. So what we're going to do is put a segment of blue board every 4.8 meters, and we're going to clad this with a new product that we'll show you in a later video called Glamstone. So hence, once we trim the palings off, it'll all run as one nice level top. So in summary, we're now getting to the end stages of our fence. So, some key points. Put the posts at 2.3 meter centers. Have 2 people to do it, so much easier than just the one. At the base of the post, make sure that the concrete slopes away so water doesn't sit around the base of the posts and then rot at the base. I always prefer to use or recommend hardwood posts instead of pine. They are sturdier and are less likely to bend. Whereas using pine rails and pine palings makes it a lot easier to work with. Make sure it's treated timber, CCA treated timber, that is level H4 for in the ground and H3 for above the ground for your palings and your rails. Make sure that the spacing between the rails is equidistant and satisfies pool requirements. We've got the top rail right at the top of the fence, so there is no chance of the palings bending at the top. But don't let the palings go any more than 150mm above the top rail. Setting out of the palings, as we've said, can be anywhere between a wide gap to totally butted up to even an overlap finished as we showed you earlier, depending on what suits your requirements. And you can always make it interesting by having an insert of a piece of blue board, which you can tile, which you can put some cladding on to make your fence just that little bit different. If you also check out on the website, you can see there's a PDF that you can download on how to build a fence. So check that out and watch this video and learn how to put a fence together.